My dad kicked me off the $12,000 Hawaii trip I funded, just to hand my seat to my brother's fiancée. He said she deserves it more. So I made sure they'd regret it before they even landed. 3 weeks before departure, while reviewing contractor schedules for a mall renovation project in my downtown Phoenix office, my phone buzzed with a group text from my dad. "We've decided Amber will go instead of you. She'll capture better memories for the family." That was it. No explanation, no apology. Just a decision dropped like a hammer on glass. I stared at the screen, reread it, then read it again. The message hung in the digital space like poison. My name wasn't even mentioned, just "we" and "decided." The silence in my office suddenly felt deafening. I didn't respond. There was no point. Not yet. I leaned back in my leather chair and stared at the wall of project portfolios. I'd spent months planning this trip. 12 days in Maui. First-class tickets, oceanfront resort, helicopter tours, sunset dinner cruises, volcano excursions, all of it. A retirement gift for my father Harold, after 37 years of construction work that left him with arthritis and hearing loss. A thank you for the decades of dawn departures and weekend overtime. A chance, maybe, to feel like a family again. And they gave my seat to James's fiancée, Amber, who once asked me if Wi-Fi worked in airplanes. Amber, who had never paid for her own cell phone bill without borrowing money from someone. Amber, who spent last Thanksgiving at our dining table explaining why essential oils could cure my dad's joint pain while using my Netflix password on her phone. I opened the Hawaiian Airlines app. My name was still there for now. I didn't cry. That wasn't how I processed betrayal. Instead, I opened Excel, labeled it Hawaii Recovery, and began making a list. Flights, resort, excursions, rental cars, refund policies, emergency contacts. Next to each line item, I wrote one word, mine. Then I opened a second spreadsheet and titled it Family Debt Ledger. At the top, I typed their names, and the numbers that would change everything. I bought the second house in 2019, a 3-bedroom ranch in Scottsdale, nothing fancy, but solid construction and close enough to the university that it would always have rental demand. That was the plan anyway. Passive income, long-term investment. I ran the numbers dozens of times before signing, locked in a 2.8% fixed rate and established a maintenance fund. I didn't buy it for them, but when Dad's construction company downsized during the pandemic and Mom said, "We just need a little time to get back on our feet," I handed them the keys. No lease, no security deposit, just a family agreement. $1,200 a month, utilities included. It was 60% below market rate. And even that wasn't consistent. By year 2, I'd stopped asking for rent. Asking created tension. Tension created silence. James moved in around that time after his lease ended and he was between opportunities. He brought his gaming setup, a motorcycle, and Amber, who said the ring wasn't official yet, but close. They always had reasons. A delayed check, an unexpected transmission repair, Mom's birthday weekend in Sedona. I tracked it all meticulously. $23,400 in missed rent by last December. I never brought it up again. Not directly. I figured the spreadsheet would protect me from becoming bitter, as if organized data could make betrayal fair. They bought a new hot tub last spring. I recognized it from the Home Depot website I'd been browsing. James once called me uptight for sending a Venmo request after he'd used my Costco account to buy $287 worth of protein powder and steaks. "It's not a business, Marilyn," he said, like I'd violated some sacred family code. But it always felt like a business, a terrible one. High investment, zero return, and emotionally bankrupt. That morning, I updated the spreadsheet. Then I called a locksmith, because if they were going to treat me like a landlord, it was time they saw the paperwork. Amber drifted into our lives the way a virus infiltrates a computer, slowly, then all at once. The first time I met her, she complimented my aesthetic while photographing my living room for her Instagram story. She wore athleisure to family dinners and talked about manifesting abundance while asking to borrow my car. She didn't have a real job, just a wellness blog with 43 followers, mostly family members. According to James, she was building her personal brand in the mindfulness and lifestyle space. When I asked what that meant practically, he blinked and said, "It's like coaching but for the soul." She specialized in vague wisdom about toxic energy and vision boards, mostly centered around what other people should invest in while she cultivated her gifts. James adored her. He called her enlightened. Mom called her refreshing. Dad nodded politely, probably out of politeness. When I announced the Hawaii trip at Sunday dinner, I watched my father's weathered face transform. He pulled out his old National Geographic about Pacific Islands, said he'd dreamed of seeing Pearl Harbor since he was a boy. For 5 minutes, warmth flickered between us like candlelight. Then James asked if Amber could come. I said no calmly. It's a gift for Dad. I've already booked 4 seats. Silence stretched across the table like a fault line. Then James scoffed. Seriously? You can't just buy one more ticket. I've maxed the budget, I replied. And this isn't a group vacation. It's a thank you. James stood, crossing his arms. You're just jealous. No one's ever chosen you for their big moments. The words landed harder than I let show. I didn't flinch, just nodded. Amber scrolled through her phone like the whole conversation was beneath her spiritual awareness. Mom mumbled something about family harmony. Dad studied his coffee cup. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I pulled up the reservation portal and reviewed every cancellation policy, line by line. Then I scheduled a locksmith for Thursday at 2 p.m. I called Hawaiian Airlines, pretending to double-check my reservation details. I already suspected something was wrong. I just needed confirmation. The representative was professional, efficient. Yes, Miss Walker, your reservation was modified last Tuesday. You're listed as unable to travel due to a family emergency. My blood turned to ice. A family emergency? Yes, she continued. Someone identifying as your sister-in-law called, explained you were in the hospital and couldn't travel. She requested we transfer the ticket to her name. Unfortunately, name transfers aren't permitted for international travel under this fare class. My voice stayed level. Did anyone attempt to use that ticket? A pause. Yes, a woman attempted to check in under your name yesterday morning, but was flagged by security. There's now a fraud alert on the reservation. You should contact our fraud department immediately. I did. Filed the report, submitted my ID, bank statements, timestamps. They took it seriously. By evening, I knew everything. Amber had shown up to Sky Harbor Airport with my boarding pass, my name, and what she'd told security was family confusion about the booking. They were trying to pass her through using my identity. According to the security report James forwarded thinking it would help their case, Amber had insisted the mix-up was just miscommunication between sisters. I scrolled through the group text again. The message still sat there, shameless. We've decided Amber will go instead of you. She'll capture better memories for the family. My seat, my name, my money, my silence. I didn't respond to them. I didn't need to. I opened the spreadsheet I'd started. Next to return flights, I added, cancel, fraud prevention. Next to resort booking, I wrote, verify ID requirements. I moved through the list like I was dismantling a building, brick by brick. At the bottom, I created a new section, legal documentation. Then I opened another browser tab, logged into the smart lock system for the Scottsdale house, and changed all the access codes. Just before closing my laptop, I looked at the group message one final time and whispered to the empty office, game on. The first call I made was to the Grand Wailea Resort, a luxury property in Maui booked under my name and American Express. I asked about their check-in policies without the primary guest present. ID verification is required at the front desk, they confirmed. The name on the reservation must match the guest's identification. Perfect. I cancelled the entire booking. 7 nights, 3 rooms, ocean view suites. No refund, I didn't care. The money was worth watching their faces when they arrived at an empty reservation desk. Next was the helicopter tour company. I'd booked a sunrise flight over Haleakala Crater, private aircraft, champagne service. Cancelled. Then the sunset dinner cruise, the snorkeling excursion to Molokini, the road to Hana tour, the spa day at the resort. Each cancellation felt like removing another support beam from their perfect vacation. The refund emails trickled in, and I logged each one in my spreadsheet beside Amber's name, watching the total climb toward 5 figures. Return flights were more complex. Hawaiian Airlines couldn't cancel the completed outbound leg, but they agreed to flag the return tickets for additional security screening. If there's another identity mismatch, we'll escalate to federal authorities, the fraud department assured me. Then I changed my credit card number, rendering useless any reservations they might try to modify. The locks came next. By midnight, every door in the Scottsdale house had new smart locks synchronized to my phone. I installed motion-activated cameras and a video doorbell that sent alerts directly to my device. I printed an official notice and taped it inside the front window, unauthorized entry subject to trespassing charges. Contact property management. They weren't legally tenants. No lease, no formal agreement, just 4 years of what I'd foolishly called family generosity. That ended at dawn. I emailed a property management company and paid rush fees for a formal lease agreement. Market rate, $3,800 per month, utilities separate. First and last month's rent required for occupancy. I requested a 30-day notice to vacate prepared for certified delivery. Finally, I called Mark Morrison, a real estate attorney I'd worked with on commercial properties. He remembered me. I explained the situation in precise, unemotional terms. He didn't interrupt, just said, "I'll prepare the eviction paperwork. We'll handle this by the book." By the time I closed my laptop that night, I hadn't spoken one word to my family, but I had systematically eliminated every trace of their stolen vacation. The silence felt better than any conversation we'd ever had. The first message arrived at 3:47 a.m. Phoenix time. "Marilyn, what did you do? There's no hotel reservation. The guy at the desk is looking at us like we're crazy." I turned my phone face down and slept better than I had in months. By morning, there were 18 more messages. "We can't reach the tour company. Everything's cancelled. What's happening? Amber, this is completely unprofessional and borderline illegal. You'll be hearing from my spiritual advisor about your toxic energy. Dad, she twisted her ankle on the beach walk. Do you even care, Marilyn? Mom, you embarrassed us in front of Amber's Instagram followers. Do you understand what you've done to our family reputation?" I did understand, and I had spreadsheets to prove it. I scrolled through their messages like reading someone else's drama. They'd landed in Maui assuming I'd still carry the financial load, even after stealing my seat. They expected luxury handed to them on a silver platter. Instead, they got reality. I imagined them in the Grand Wailea lobby, tired, entitled, expecting cool towels and bellhops, only to hear no reservation under that name. I pictured the panic cracking through Mom's composed facade, James frantically calling his contacts, Dad standing there confused while Amber documented their travel nightmare for social media content. They were 3 people who had built their world on my assumptions. I had simply removed the foundation. Later that afternoon, a video message came through. Amber sitting on a bench outside a budget motel, her ankle wrapped in a hotel towel. James in the background arguing with a taxi driver about rates. The caption read, "When family betrays you but the universe provides lessons." I didn't watch it. "Dad, Marilyn, you've made your point. We'll figure this out. But this was cruel, sweetheart. Cruel." The word stayed with me longer than expected. Cruel was spending $12,000 and being replaced by someone who thought Hawaii was a state in Mexico. Cruel was using someone's identity at airport security without permission. Cruel was telling your daughter she takes worse photos than a wellness blogger you've known for 8 months. I opened a new browser tab and made a $50 donation to the GoFundMe Dad had started months ago for Mom's dental work. It was still active, sitting at $247 from 3 contributors. The site asked if I wanted my donation to be public. I clicked yes. Under the message section, I typed, "From the daughter who wasn't invited to her own vacation." Then I closed the laptop and made myself coffee. I had a meeting with Mark tomorrow to finalize the eviction paperwork. They returned to Phoenix like survivors of a shipwreck. Mom waved from Dad's pickup truck as if we hadn't communicated in weeks, her smile brittle as dried paint. Amber emerged slowly, her ankle wrapped in what looked like a designer bandage, performance art of injury and indignation. James didn't even look toward my office window. I met them in the driveway of the Scottsdale house, legal documents in hand. "This is your lease," I said, extending the folder. $3,800 a month, utilities separate. First and last month due upon signing. You have 30 days. Mom blinked rapidly. Are you serious right now? Completely. You're evicting your own parents. James snapped, stepping closer like proximity might intimidate me. I'm offering you a legal rental agreement. That's more consideration than I received. Amber took the papers from me, scanning the first page like she was looking for loopholes in a spiritual contract. You know, this isn't how family energy should flow. This whole situation could have been resolved with better communication and chakra alignment. I looked at her directly. Then it's fortunate we're not family. She gasped dramatically. This entire conflict could have been avoided with a simple conversation about abundance mindset. I gestured to the lease. That is the conversation. She handed the papers back like they carried negative vibrations. I'll need to consult with my life coach about the spiritual implications. I raised an eyebrow. Is that before or after you explain the identity fraud charges? Mom's face went pale. James's jaw tightened. I handed him the papers anyway. You said Amber deserved my seat, James. Here's your chance to prove she deserves a roof over her head too. Consider this your final pitch meeting. They stood in silence for 30 seconds that felt like 30 minutes. I turned and walked back to my car, pressing the button to lock the house behind me. On my way out of the driveway, I rolled down the window. The eviction notice will be served tomorrow if the lease isn't signed by 5 p.m. Have a blessed day. They never signed the lease. Not in week 1 when I sent certified reminders. Not in week 2 when Mark's paralegal hand-delivered copies. By week 3, they stopped acknowledging my existence entirely. On day 31, I filed the eviction with the Maricopa County Court. James sent a text 2 hours later. You're opening yourself up to serious legal consequences. Amber's life coach says your energy is creating karmic debt for our entire bloodline. I replied with a screenshot of the court filing confirmation. 3 months later, I received a final message from Dad. Until you fix this family, you're no longer our daughter. No greeting, no signature, just a sentence thrown like a stone through glass that was already shattered. I didn't feel anger or surprise, just something resembling closure. I sat with the message for exactly 1 minute, phone resting on my Kit Walker counter next to the deed for the Scottsdale house, now officially listed for sale. Then I replied, I stopped being yours the day you gave away my seat. I didn't wait for a response. I screenshotted both messages and forwarded them to Mark for documentation. Then I turned off my phone, packed a weekend bag, and drove to Sedona. No itinerary, no reservations, just me and the open highway. The silence wasn't empty. It was clean. I checked into a small inn where nobody knew my story, hiked the red rocks at sunset, and let the desert wind carry away the last traces of obligation I'd been carrying for years. That night, I fell asleep without checking my phone. No notifications, no spreadsheets, no calls about late rent or family loyalty or forgiveness disguised as manipulation. When I woke the next morning, I stretched into the quiet like it was something I'd earned. I made coffee in the little Kit Walkerette, sat by the window overlooking the canyon, and thought about that plane seat. The one I paid for. The one they stole. I realized I didn't want it back. Not anymore. Not ever. Some vacations are worth more when you don't take them. And some families are worth more when you finally stop funding them.